Let's go fly an elephant up, 'cause it's no longer relevant. Let's go fly an elephant, 'cause it's,
ambivalent.
that doesn't even rhyme!
Not my fault you used the only word that actually does rhyme.
That's irrelevant! So, what's our next review?
Actually, I wanted to talk with you about that.
Oh, I hope it's Poseidon's Fury! I can't wait to rip that pretentious walking tour a new one!
Take a look at our roster. Carousel spinners are frighteningly abundant.
There's 5 more?!
Between Disney and Universal, yeah. Triceratops Spin at Animal Kingdom, Astro Orbiter in Tomorrowland, Kang and Kodo's Twirl and Hurl at Universal, Magic Carpets of Aladdin at Adventureland,
Why?
and One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish at Islands of Adventure.
Sure, why invest in technologically advanced immersive attractions when you can crack out the Connect set and build a carnival staple at a fraction of the cost? Jeez.
It is a bit of an overkill. Can you imagine if even more franchises and IPs got their own spinners? As in, the top 10 rides of every IP got a spinner of their own.
Number 10, Launchpad's Biplane Spin. If it's got wings, you can crash it.
Number 9, Pooh's Balloons. Hold on to your string and watch out for bees.
Number 8, Marvelous Minion Madness, because Minion, 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 Minion.
Number 7, Dusty Crop Hopper's Fire Brigade, because you like Cars 4.
Number 6, Hercules Pegasus. Pegasus. Pronounce it and you can ride it.
Number 5, Stitch's Rocket Blast, now with 20% more chili dog breath.
Number 4, Rocketeer Rods, featuring untested government tech and Nazis.
Number 3, Harry Potter's Nimbus 2000 Rally, because Hogwarts isn't already dangerous enough.
Number 2, Pink Elephants on Parade. Drink up, me hearties.
And the number 1 IP to get its own spinner ride is Elsa's Frozen Flight, because there's still money to be made off this thing, so heck with canon. Elsa can fly now. Play me off, Paul. Look, we got lucky that we could talk so much about Dumbo because it was one of the first and it had such a rich history. We don't have that kind of luxury with the others. I have an idea. What do you say we do 2 at a time to kill 2 birds with 1 proverbial stone?
But spinners are boring!
Exactly, man. Get them done and over with. And once we're done, we'll move on to other stuff. Promise. So, which one do we start with? Well, let's find out. And it's gonna be...
I'd like to buy a vowel.
Nice try. First up, it's Astro Orbiter at Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland, since opening in 1971, remained underdeveloped for the better part of its first 5-year existence. The area's centerpiece didn't even open until 1974, and unlike Disneyland's counterpart, was on a 3rd-story platform instead of starting on ground level.
But like Disneyland, it opened under another name, Starjets. At the time, the rockets circled a massive rocket over a very, very, very white Tomorrowland. Because in the 70s, the perception of the future was that everything in architecture was angled and whiter than Baymax.
In 1994, that all had to change. Most of Tomorrowland shut down and reopened with a whole new look to give a more over-the-top science fiction-y look at the future. Chrome, glowing neon, blue accents, synthesizer music, and lots of...
Astro Orbiter, with its new and current name, opened April of 1994 as the first attraction to open after the refurbishment. No more rocket centerpiece. Now it's a bunch of planets the rockets are circling.
The queue is a standard switchback on the ground, followed by an elevator up to the loading platform. Altogether, there are 12 rockets that seat up to 2 people. And of course, you can control how high or low you fly by adjusting your little lever. Just remember, at 80 feet off the ground, acrophobes are strongly discouraged. Question is, does it hold a candle to Dumbo?
I'm going to say both yes and no.
I'm going to say mostly no.
Okay. Well, overall, what do you think of Astro Orbiter?
Okay, let's talk about the number 1 asset to this attraction, the height.
That is the main thing.
When you go up that high, you kind of see mostly tops of buildings down below, but you can still see some pretty cool sights. You off into Fantasyland and probably even on the other side of the hub. Great view of the castle, and best time to ride it is during Wishes at night.
During Wishes?
Yeah.
Strangely, I never thought of doing that.
But it's absolutely stunning to do. It's just, you just don't get that kind of view anywhere else.
I don't know. I kind of prefer to ride it at night because everything is all nice and lit up. Again, strange that I never thought to ride it during Wishes. But I might have to give that a try next time.
I think the thing that I'm not a big fan of is that thematically it's very, very limited. Okay, I get it. It was an original Disney attraction. There wasn't a whole lot of space science fiction-y stuff compared to today where you could do anything from Big Hero 6, Meet the Robinsons, Buzz Lightyear, Stitch, you name it. But, when you get down to it, when you're flying on a rocket ship in circles, is that really Disney?
Well, here's the thing, and I've heard you say this far too often on this show, but in order to have a good story, you gotta start it with good characters.
Right.
Really, there were no characters at the time that they could take from, so they just kind of tossed the notion of a story aside. To me, I think it's still pretty strong for what it is. Mm-hmm. Is it Disney? But
it's marketed to heck.
Oh yeah, for no joke about that. But honestly, other than being up really high, that is the main thing it has going for it. It is, again, just a spinner ride.
I think that's the only reason why it tends to have like a 20-plus minute wait almost all the time.
Don't they not see Dumbo like 3 feet that way?
Yeah, right? But so altogether, I have to give this 1.5 out of 5. It has a good value of flying high and maybe during wishes, but as it is, I just think my time could be better spent at Dumbo.
I don't know. I think it's pretty decent myself. I wouldn't say better than Dumbo, but you can do worse on this particular list. So I'm going to go ahead and give Astro Orbiter a 2.5 out of 5. So that's a 1.5 out of 5 from TAP-G and a 2.5 out of 5 from SurferClock.
Now, like Dumbo, there are no ride restrictions, but those in wheelchairs and scooters will need to transfer into their shuttles. And need I mention the acrophobics again?
Well, as I said before, there is a charm to being up so high and seeing all of Magic Kingdom. It is simpler in Dumbo in theming and execution. Disney likes marketing it all the heck, just like you said, even if there is rather little difference between it and any other small-town Carnival Rocket spinner ride. Let's go ahead and compare it to our next contender. Magic Carpets of Aladdin.
Ugh.
What?
Every time I think of that ride, it reminds me of him.
Who?
Eisner.
Now, look, to be fair, Eisner did help dredge the company out of the abysmal dark era in the years following Walt's death. Adding thrill rides to the parks, revitalizing animation, expanding the parks, merging with companies like ABC and ESPN.
Yeah, up until 1994. That was when Company Peacemaker, Peacekeeper, Company President, and Eisner's best friend, Frank Wells, died in a helicopter crash. His death reverberated within the company, and especially since his humility served as a buffer between the egos of Eisner, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and Roy E. Disney. But in the following 10-plus years, the company grew less like a blooming flower and more like a tire. Getting bigger, sure, but definitely not filling up with substance.
That is a pretty elaborate metaphor.
Thank you. In the latter half of Eisner's tenure, franchising and marketing were king. The animation studio was allowed to die. Rides opening had less and less technological advancements. Sequels ran rampant. Ultimately, quantity meant more than quality, and nowhere is this more evident than in Magic Carpets of Aladdin, and one other ride we'll mention next time.
Plunked right into the heart of Adventureland, Magic Carpets of Aladdin opened in May of 2001, just before the theme park attendance slump that started in September and took years for the theme parks to recover from.
Strictly speaking, September 11th made people afraid to fly, so long-distance vacations took a hit and many repercussions resulted, up to and including the shutdown of River Country.
So it was a cheaply built ride that had perpetual walk-on status for quite some time. What didn't help was that the ride's main feature, the water-spitting camels, were props from the Disney MGM Studio Aladdin Caravan Parade. They spit at riders on the ride as well as the passers-by in Adventureland.
Of course, in one of the few areas they probably shelled out the extra cash where it mattered, Scott Weinger reprises his role as Aladdin in the safety spiel, and decidedly not Robin Williams or Dan Castellaneta voicing the quote-unquote genie for the Spanish safety spiel.
Well, Scott doesn't get a whole lot of active work outside of Aladdin and Full House residuals.
In any case, the ride is identical to Dumbo and Astro Orbiter, complete with rise lower levers. Only this time, try to dodge the camels who are especially good at expectorating. So, is it as good as Astro Orbiter?
I'm going to go controversially here and say it's actually a little bit better than Astro Orbiter.
I have to say yes and no.
All right. Well, explain yourself, good sir.
Okay, here's what I do like about it. I mentioned in Astro Orbiter that I'm not a big fan of the fact that there's not a whole lot of theming. There's plenty of theming here. It actually looks like something out of Agrabah, and they've taken the time to revamp the Adventureland area to look like Agrabah. So there's a lot of theming there. I give it props for that. I do like the incorporation of the camels, but I'm going to get to that in just a bit. So it's a different ride element to there. And I do like the fact that you hear the original Aladdin, Scott Weinger, doing the safety spiel. So there's a lot of theming to it. But it still feels like a very cheap ride that they just slapped a coat of paint on and dropped it right in the middle of Adventureland. It feels... I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is there. It just feels slapped on.
Yeah, it is very Dumbo-esque. It's, more Dumbo-esque than maybe Dumbo itself, which makes it kind of unnecessary. Yeah, it adds a little bit of kinetic energy to Adventureland, which it kind of needed it, to be honest. Because the only kinetic things that you really see are in the Jungle Cruise, but that's hidden away. Mm-hmm. I think it adds a visual weenie, as it were.
I suppose. I don't quite remember what Adventureland looked like without it before, but it feels like it just cuts off a lot of traffic flow. But I think probably my biggest gripe is those camels from the old MGM Aladdin parade. I don't know whether that's a clever homage or if that's just, let's just save a few bucks.
Well, let's not forget, too, that the theme park audience is now getting older and older. So we're having gradual younger generations come in. The younger folks aren't going to remember that there was an Aladdin's Caravan parade. And the people who are aging now, well, save for you, probably won't even care that it was part of that. Nor may they even remember.
That may be true, but on the other hand, it's like saying, why do we need the Mr. Toad homage at the Pet Cemetery, the Haunted Mansion, if it's no longer there?
Theming, I guess, and attention to detail, which both things we know Disney's really good at. Mm-hmm. I like that the camels do add a small element of surprise. It is something that Dumbo doesn't have. It's something that Astro Orbiter doesn't have. So it is kind of justified to me, no matter the source of the camels. But to me, the biggest benefit of having Aladdin is, unlike the other two rides that we've already reviewed, Dumbo and Astro Orbiter, you can actually bring a wheelchair onto this ride. Now, being in a scooter, you do still have to transfer to a wheelchair, but a wheelchair can actually fit into the ride vehicles.
That's far and away a big benefit for the ADA.
Definitely. And because the Americans with Disabilities Act came along right about that, maybe about a decade before, I would say. Mm-hmm. But in any case, that is a huge plus, and to me, that puts Magic Carpets of Aladdin above Astro Orbiter, but not quite to Dumbo levels.
But Dumbo doesn't even have that going for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll add it in sometime in the future. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and give Magic Carpets of Aladdin a 3 out of 5. Very competent to stand on its own.
I'm still not a fan of just how cheap and almost plasticky the ride is, but I still like the fact that it is theming and it's immersive. So I have to give it a higher rating than Astro Orbiter as a 2.5 out of 5.
All right, so that is a 3 out of 5 from SurferClock and a 2.5 out of 5 from TAP-G. Now, as I said before, Aladdin does require those in scooters to transfer into at least wheelchairs before boarding their carpets, but you can board the carpet with your wheelchair.
For my money, and for me, time is money, I'd much rather fly Dumbo. Better queue, shorter wait times, and simply a better option. If Dumbo's closed, sure, maybe, but as is, no.
Well, I think it's a sufficient alternative. Yeah, I definitely still prefer Dumbo, but it holds up. It's not intrinsically bad per se. It's just adequate enough.
Alrighty. 2 down, 3 to go. That's all we have for today's episode.
As always, I'm SurferClock.
And I am so dizzy.
And we're What's the Attraction?
While work is your vacation.
Meanwhile, at the detainment center on the other side of the galaxy.
Alright, boys.
keys to a starship, 2 wallets, 1 visor, $3.19 in change, an I Heart Stitch scrapbook, and a Harry Potter wand. So your sentence is up, man. What are you gonna do now?
I think we should visit some old friends. Play 'em a hit from 1967.
And then get a butterbeer.
2 years locked up and all you want is a stupid butterbeer?
It can wait after we visit our friends. I'm flexible. To be continued. Dun dun dun.